Today we'll be discussing how, contrary to President Trump's statements, climate change is very real and affecting our economy and health.
We'll also be exchanging views on how a march at the U.S.-Mexican border ended up in tear gas and chaos.
Here's the bottom line. Nobody's coming into our country unless they come in legally.
And finally, we'll be bringing you the latest CSUF and local news. All this and more on today's episode of The Report. Hello and welcome to The Report, Cal State Fullerton's premier source for news, views, and info. I'm Leslie Duarte.
I'm Ryan Matthew.
And I'm Xochitl Lagunas. Before we delve into our first hot topic, we'd like to invite you to be a part of this discussion this semester season. Click on the link in the caption of any of our report episodes to fill out a secure Google form with your opinion on any controversial issue that we've talked about now or in the past, as many of these issues are recurring and evolving, ranging from gun control to abortion, climate change, or the state of politics. All we ask is to please keep it civil.
A new environmental report from the United States government delivered a warning about climate change and the impact it may have on the economy, stating it could lose hundreds of billions of dollars by the end of the century. The Southeast alone may lose over 500 million labor hours by 2100 due to extreme heat. Farmers across the country will also face a decrease in crops due to higher temperatures, drought, and flooding. Dairy production will also decrease between 0.60% and 1.35% over the next 12 years, which may not sound like a lot, but in 2010, heat stress cost the industry $1.2 billion. Let's hear from Director of the Technical Support Unit at the NOAA National Center for Environmental Information, David Easterling.
The global average temperature is much higher and is rising more rapidly than anything modern civilization has experienced. And this warming trend can only be explained by human activities.
The impact climate change would have on our health is leading towards an additional 2,000 premature deaths per year by 2090. The amount of mosquitoes and tick-borne illnesses are expected to increase greatly by 2050, and asthma as well as allergies could worsen due to the rising temperatures. The scientifically proven report runs contrary to President Trump's consistent message that climate change is a hoax. Guys, the proof's in the pudding. It's here. We have evidence that climate change is real, and yet our president is refusing to look at it or give it any sort of acknowledgement. Do we really think that anything's really going to be happening while President Trump is in office in relations to global warming?
There's a possibility.
I don't think so. Just the other day, he tweeted, what happened to climate change? The weather's so cold in D.C. And it was just like, well, 93% of all world scientists agree that climate change is not a hoax and that it's something valid and happening. And in the United States, we just don't see it that way. Other countries do. There are so many countries leading in renewable energy. I read an article about Costa Rica, 100% renewable energy for 6 months straight, and there are other countries trying to do the same thing. Mm-hmm. Not us.
Not us.
I don't know, I guess we're being the bad example and kind of highlighting other people to what to do. But that's the thing it sucks because, we don't, as humans, we usually don't take in consideration what's going on, and we don't make the effort to do a change until it actually affects us,
Yeah.
And by the time that happens, what if it's too late, Yeah. What if we're not taking a stance now, we're going to let these things happen, and then by the time that we do have some sort of thing that's affecting us right then and there, we possibly can't affect it or we can't do anything to change it, right? So, we're taking tiny steps, right? Like you mentioned, we are doing little tiny things to us to do some sort of renewable energy. So we have like the plastic bags that we have at grocery stores, we have electric cars, we have solar panels on houses. Like there are multiple ways that us as just civilians are doing our little tiny part to do something, but those aren't the things that are really going to affect the huge change. It's more industrial things that take very influential leaders to do something about.
Yeah, no, definitely. This report, I love that you brought up this report for this topic because it shows economically how climate change would affect us. And I've never thought about that personally. And this, that's a lot of money that we would be losing in industries that could affect climate change. And that was a really shock to me, seeing these reports and these numbers, because there's so much work to be done. And I know individually we try to cooperate and recycle and pick up trash and all this stuff, but is it enough? Is it enough to get us to the point where we can set back global warming a few years?
Great question.
Yeah. What do you guys think?
I really think that we need to do something. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't really know. I don't have the example of what needs to be done. All I know is influential leaders like the president of the United States should be taking a stance on something that's affecting not just America, it's everyone. It's the entire world, And then, there is the also con of it that these industries are going to start losing money, right? They're going to have to shut down factories or whatever, but it's kind of lose money, die.
No, I think we have a lot of opportunities to grow our economy in renewable energy, and I hope that we can get to that point. I don't know what it's going to take for us to get to that point, but I hope in the near future we can catch up with the other countries because they're following it. Did you guys hear about the tear gas in the southern border?
Oh, yeah. It's all over the news.
Well, we're on to talk about it on our next hot topic. On November 25th, the U.S. federal agents used tear gas to deter about 500 migrants as they rushed to the southern border between Tijuana and San Diego. The clouds of tear gas spread throughout the group of migrants, which included women and children. Border crossings were closed in both directions for hours. It appeared that no migrants breached the frontier. The agency also stated that by Sunday night, 39 people had already been arrested. The incident began with a peaceful march to the border. As they reached the border area, some people split towards multiple locations in an attempt to enter, but were turned away. After they were prevented from entering, that is when some migrants attempted to breach the fence. The mayor of Tijuana vocalized that he will not let migrants' actions damage the city's relationship with the United States. He also called on the Mexican government, specifically President Enrique Peña Nieto, to provide assistance to these migrants, stating that he will not commit city resources to migrants, which includes money and public services. He stated, quote,
I need the federal government to take over the situation, and if the federal government is not capable of doing it, well, go to the UNO, United Nations Organization, where established that they can help out. It's called humanitarian assistance.
Weeks ahead of the midterm elections, President Trump warned people that the United States was going to experience an invasion from the migrant caravan and sent 5,000 troops to secure the border. Sochi, we have to turn this question to you. You were at the border covering the story. What did you see? Who did you talk to? What did they say?
Well, obviously, there was obviously a lot of poverty. You can totally tell. A lot of the families have gone through a lot. And as far as I spoke to a person, he pretty much stated that there's a lot of corruption, and he personally lived in Michoacan, but he fled because obviously of all the corruption going on. He says it's just with authorities, He says you can't trust them. So hearing that was a bit, crucial.
Yeah, what did he say about them?
Well, he's pretty much just said didn't feel safe. He pretty much mentioned that you don't really know what's going to happen to you. And it was something that interesting that he also said was as far as gangsters, if gangsters were to come up to me and do something, I'm most likely going to know what to expect rather than if it's a cop, I don't know what's going to happen to me. So that was pretty interesting.
Oh, that's crazy. Ryan, what do you think about this?
That's crazy.
Caravan
That's
there?
sad. Yeah, that's insane. This is that. It makes sense why these people are coming over. They're not just doing it just because they like the inconvenience of it all. It's because they're fleeing from a life of violence, of danger, and all they just want to be safe. They just want themselves to be safe. They want their families to be safe. They want their children to be safe, which is a moral thing that I feel like we could all kind of relate to. If we were in their shoes, we would understand as why they're coming over here. So it's now America's decision and responsibility to find a way to be able to accept these people. I understand it's tons of people. It's in like the thousands range, but we as land of the free, home of the brave need to be able to actually stand to that promise and accept people who are trying to just make a better lives for themselves.
Yeah, we are definitely a nation of immigrants, and that's how our nation was founded. And to see them tear gas these individuals was really heartbreaking, especially the children that were affected by it. That was really heartbreaking for me to watch. And, you know, these people here, they are seeking credible fear for asylum, and a lot of the criticism is like, well, why don't they do it the right way? Why don't they legally apply for asylum? And the way that you do, I'm not an expert in immigration law, but according to the research that I did based off the USCIS website, you have to physically be present in the United States to seek asylum. So they have to cross the border. And when they shut down the border and say, we're not accepting anybody, it's like these people are desperate, been walking for miles, living in horrible conditions, you know, violence and abuse in these caravans. And it's just really heartbreaking how we as a nation of immigrants are treating this new wave of Asian of immigrants.
Yeah,
and it's really...
The problem, though, is there's so many people. You know, it's a large amount of people. And then not only that, they're not the only caravan that's seeking for help. There's previous caravans, and there's previous other people that are also seeking asylum. So it's just a lot of people, and you know, definitely something has to be done, but...
Yeah, and there is there has to be a plan. What is going to happen to these people? We accept them, and now what? Well, a lot of the farms in America are suffering of farm worker shortage. They need people to work their fields, and they're letting the vegetables go to waste because there's nobody to work them, because the idea is, well, these immigrants are going to take our jobs, but Americans aren't taking these jobs at all. So now what do? And now you have the fields going to waste, the food going to waste, and you have these migrants that want to come to America to get a better future for themselves and for their families and work and, you know, follow the law and correctly seek asylum the right way. And the government isn't doing that. The government is basically closing the doors at them, and that's just really hard to see. Yeah.
So obviously, this is a really, really, for a lot of people, controversial topic.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I just really hope that something gets done, and we'll definitely be updated on that.
No, absolutely. And again, we have to get the people who have credible fear and those that are rebels and that, you know, won't benefit our country. We can vet them, and we can figure out who they are and who deserves to be in the country and who's going to come here to seek a better future for themselves and their family. And it's just hard seeing these children in this situation. You know, they're just kids, and they weren't asked to be put in those situations, and here they are just walking barefoot with blisters on their feet. And it's like, you know, what can we do? How can we help this? Not just the United States, but Mexico, Honduras, El Salvador, all of Central America. This is a humanitarian crisis happening.
Now turning to national news, rain is helping firefighters extinguish what is left of the wildfire in Butte County, California. The death rolls continues to rise as hundreds of people remain missing among the devastation. According to CAL FIRE's latest incident update, the estimated 150,000 acre fire is now 95% contained. Full containment of the fire, which started on November 8, is expected to be completed by next Friday. There are now 84 confirmed deaths and 14,000 homes are destroyed. The rainfall, while adding in efforts to extinguish the fire, brings with the risk of mudslides. Sacramento Fire Captain Dave Lochner told Fox 40 that rain will make the ground really unstable for firefighters. It also threatens to destroy what is left, including human remains, which will disintegrate into the wet mud, hindering search and recovery efforts. On Wednesday, Butte County Health Officer Dr. Andy Miller warned evacuees of the campfire against returning to live in destroyed property until it is cleared of hazardous waste, structural ash, and debris.
In the aftermath of a Thanksgiving night shooting in an Alabama mall, police shot and killed 21-year-old Amantic Fitzgerald Bradford Jr. Local police have admitted to fatally targeting the wrong man and leaving at least one shooter still on the loose. It's in its original statement, the Hoover Police Department identified Bradford as the shooter who had been involved in a physical altercation before opening fire. The officer who shot Bradford has been placed on administrative leave. Evidence suggests that Bradford may not have shot the two youths, though they still believe he could have been a part of the dispute which led to the shooting. Bradford's family has retained the services of Benjamin L. Crump, a civil rights attorney who previously represented the family of Trayvon Martin. Crump and family members accused the Hoover Police Department officer who shot Bradford of rushing to judgment, failing to provide a warning before shooting, and declining to provide medical assistance to the 21-year-old.
The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention issued a warning earlier this week not to eat romaine lettuce of any kind as a result of the new E. coli outbreak. This includes whole heads, hearts, and chopped, organic, and salad mixes with romaine lettuce. The outbreak has affected more than 24 people across the 11 states. Scott Gottlieb, the commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration, tweeted Thursday that the FDA was working closely with other government agencies to determine the source of the E. coli outbreak, but noted that it was likely that the contaminated produce came from California. Gottlieb also said that the reason for such a vast warning was in part because of the difficult to distinguish labeling as well as the Thanksgiving holiday around the corner. The current E. coli outbreak has affected 32 people since early October, with 13 people hospitalized and one person developing a type of kidney failure.
All right, Disney lovers, it is finally here. The Lion King trailer has been released. Disney's remake of the 1994 original classic has a star-studded cast that includes Donald Glover as Simba, Beyoncé as Nala, and reprising his role, James Earl Jones as Mufasa. Within 24 hours of the trailer's release, it is the #1 trending video on YouTube with over 10 million views. Directed by Jon Favreau, director of Iron Man and The Jungle Book, the film also features Seth Rogen, Keegan-Michael Key, John Oliver, and Eric Andre. The film is scheduled to release on July 19th. Speaking of Disney, before we end this semester of the report, let's take a look at the CSUF concert Under the Stars from September that featured an all-female mariachi band as heard in Disney film Coco, as well as many other exciting performances.
On September 28th, Cal State Fullerton held its annual Concert Under the Stars musical variety show to celebrate being a Titan. This year's lineup included 3 CSUF alumni performers, Brooke Aston, Deneen Dyson with Soul Foundation, and Aaron McNally, who welcomed President Fram Vergey to his first Concert Under the Stars. Headlining the concert was 2-time Grammy-winning all-female mariachi ensemble, Mariachi Divas. Founded by trumpet player and alumni Cindy Shea, Mariachi Divas performs regularly throughout the U.S. and has performed on multiple film soundtracks. They are even the official mariachi band of the Disneyland Resort and often perform at California Adventures and Downtown Disney's Tortilla Joe's.
The secret sound you each night we are apart, remember me. I have to travel far, remember me.
The finale showcased CSUF's own Concert Under the Stars ensemble, dancers and show choir to perform a rendition of songs from The Greatest Showman.
Look out, 'cause here I come. Hey, 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 and I'm marching on to the beat I drum. Take the
The evening closed out with a brilliant firework display sponsored by the Anaheim Ducks.
Well, everyone, this is officially the last episode of the report. I don't know about you guys, but one of my favorite memories was just coming here and spending time with you all and getting to see the whole entire everyone behind the scenes,
the
crew.
Round of applause
Definitely,
for the crew.
without them, it
You
would have
guys
not
were
been
amazing.
possible.
Crew.
And they're
Crew.
such beautiful people.
Thank you for trying to make me look not ugly.
Yes, you guys are
Great.
flawless out there.
I was so so grateful that I had you guys by my side. Can't
It's
speak.
almost finals.
Almost finals.
Almost
It makes
finals.
sense. Well, I'm
That
so
was
glad
crazy.
that you guys were here with me covering these stories, and I hope we can do this again next semester, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely, that'd
Look,
be a pleasure.
keep an eye out for spring, right?
Oh, yes,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Well, from all of us here at The Report, thank you for staying tuned. Make sure to stay tuned for more news, views, and info, and keep an eye out for The Report in the spring. For The Report, I'm Ryan Matthey.
And I'm Leslie Duarte.
And I'm Xochitl Lagunas. Stay fresh, Fullerton.